What if the peace you've been searching for is already inside you, buried beneath the noise of your mind? Have you ever noticed how your mind constantly buzzes like a radio left on full of static? It's not just occasional chatter. It's an endless cascade of thoughts, judgments, and worries. And somehow, we've come to accept this noise as normal. But what if it isn't? In the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, the mind's ceaseless chatter is an illusion. It's the ego, the false self, continuously manufacturing noise to distract you from a deeper, quieter truth. We are taught to listen to this noise as if it were who we truly are. But could it be that the real you is far quieter than the constant clamor inside your head? The ego, as the source of noise. The ego thrives on distraction. It feeds on drama, on labels, on external validation. It pushes you to become more successful, more loved, more praised, constantly seeking approval, validation, and recognition. But this external chase keeps you disconnected from your true nature. Ramana Maharshi often said that the true self is beyond the ego. The ego is just a bundle of thoughts and identities you've accumulated over the years. Think about it. What do you hear in the moments when you stop and truly listen to yourself? Not the noise of your thoughts or worries, but that moment of stillness. That's where the truth is. A constant noise. A false you. In the modern world, silence is almost a foreign concept. The constant buzz of technology, the social media pressures, the endless expectations, they all contribute to this noise. We wear our busyness like a badge of honor, as if doing more equates to being more. But in the silence, Ramana Maharshi would argue, you can find the very essence of who you are. The ego creates chaos, but the truth lies in the stillness. What if all the noise in your mind is just the ego trying to keep you from discovering the simplicity and peace of your true self? Take a moment to reflect on this. Think of a time when your mind was particularly loud. Maybe after a stressful event, a difficult conversation, or a period of uncertainty. Did the noise help you find answers, or did it only pull you further away from clarity? The power of inner silence. Ramana Maharshi taught that the path to peace is not found in trying to fight against this noise, but in simply observing it. The ego's voice may never completely disappear, but through the practice of self-inquiry, or who am I, we begin to separate ourselves from it. When we observe our thoughts with detachment, they lose their power over us. The true power lies in recognizing that you are not your thoughts. You are not the noise. You are the observer, the silent witness to it all. In this silence, you begin to reconnect with your essence, the part of you that is eternal, unchanging, and free from the limitations the ego places upon you. The call to silence. So ask yourself, what would happen if you spent a few moments each day in complete silence? Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of presence. The silence where you stop seeking and start being. In the stillness, you'll hear a different kind of voice, a deeper wisdom that does not shout, but whispers. It's time to stop being afraid of the silence. The noise in your mind is not the truth. It is just a distraction. The truth is calm, quiet, and infinitely more powerful than any thought or judgment that passes through your mind. Silence as a reflection of truth. How to calm the inner turmoil. The silence that speaks. Have you ever experienced a moment of true silence, one where the mind completely stops, and for a brief instant, you are just being? It's as if everything else falls away. In that silence, something profound happens. It's not empty, it's full of awareness, full of truth. Ramana Maharshi often spoke about the power of silence, not as the absence of sound, but as the presence of something much deeper. It's in the silence that the real self reveals itself. You may have spent your entire life running from the noise in your mind, but the silence that you fear is the very thing that will set you free. What is it about silence that makes it so unsettling for us? Could it be that in the quiet, we are forced to face the truth of who we really are? Without distractions, without the armor of roles and identities we've built over the years? The silent presence within silence isn't passive. It's active in its own unique way. It doesn't fight with the noise of the world. It simply holds space for it. It's an invitation to stop, to be, to listen. When you stop filling the void with thoughts and external distractions, you begin to hear the subtle whisper of your true nature, the silent presence that is always there, beneath the layers of noise. In this silence, Ramana Maharshi taught that you will find your true self. You are not the roles you play or the stories you tell about yourself. You are the awareness behind it all. The more you enter this silence, the clearer your connection to that awareness becomes. It's the truth that is always present, always available, if only you stop long enough to recognize it. But here's the thing, this silence can be terrifying. In a world that tells you to be constantly busy, constantly doing, stopping, and listening feels like an act of rebellion. But in truth, it is an act of liberation. The struggle to be still. The struggle is real, isn't it? Our lives are filled with external noise, and so we fill the internal space with the same. We're afraid of what will happen if we allow ourselves to be still, to stop and listen. What if, in that silence, we confront something we've been avoiding for years, something we're not ready to face? Ramana Maharshi understood this fear. That's why he emphasized self-inquiry. The question, who am I, is not just a philosophical puzzle, but a way of dismantling the layers of ego that keep us trapped in a world of noise. The mind tries to distract us with its constant chatter, but when we ask this question, we step out of the noise and into a space of clarity. This silence forces us to confront the deeper aspects of ourselves, the parts we've hidden, the pain we've pushed away, the truths we don't want to face. But in facing them, we find the deepest peace. The silence isn't just a way to escape, it's a way to confront and heal. The illusion of control. The noise in your mind is often driven by the illusion of control. You think that if you can control everything, your environment, your relationships, your future, you can keep yourself safe from discomfort. But the truth is, you cannot control life. The more you try, the more the chaos grows. In the stillness, you release that need for control. You surrender to the flow of life, to the present moment, where everything simply is. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. On the contrary, when you surrender to silence, you become more present, more aware, and paradoxically, more empowered. You stop forcing things to happen and begin to allow life to unfold as it is. In this space, the noise of the mind fades, and the truth rises naturally. Embracing silence as your guide. The deeper you move into silence, the more you realize that it is not an absence of something, but a presence of everything. Silence holds all the wisdom you seek. It shows you who you truly are, beyond your thoughts, beyond your identity, beyond your fears. Ramana Maharshi didn't teach us to fight against the mind or the ego. He taught us to turn inward, to question the very nature of who we are and to sit in silence with that question. It is in the stillness that the answer comes, not as a thought, but as a direct knowing, a realization. So, take a moment now. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and just sit in silence, not to escape, but to listen. Listen to the subtle, deeper voice that arises when the noise fades. That is where the truth lies. The path to self-knowledge. Who am I? The question that changes everything. Have you ever asked yourself the most fundamental question of all? Who am I? Not in the surface level way, where you describe your job, your relationships, your accomplishments, but the deep existential question, who am I really? Ramana Maharshi's teachings revolve around this question, and he believed it was the key to unraveling the illusion of the ego. Who am I is not just a philosophical inquiry, but a doorway into discovering your true self, the self that lies beneath the layers of thought, identity, and conditioning. What if everything you've believed about yourself, your story, your pain, your successes, was just a construction? What if, at the core of your being, there's something far more profound, far more expansive than anything the ego has allowed you to see? The ego's veil, separating you from your true self. We spend our lives identifying with the ego, the false self that is built from our thoughts, memories, and experiences. The ego tells us who we are based on external labels. I am this. I am that. I am not enough. It defines us through accomplishments, status, and roles we play in society. But when we ask, who am I? In the deepest sense, we begin to see that all of these labels are just stories. Ramana Maharshi taught that the ego is like a veil that obscures our true nature. It makes us believe we are separate, limited, and incomplete. But when we look past this veil, we discover something vast and eternal, the true self, beyond time, beyond form, beyond all that we think we know. Think about this. When you identify with your thoughts, do you feel complete? Or do you find yourself always searching for something more? More approval, more success, more love? This endless craving is a sign that the ego is in charge, always convincing you that you need something outside of yourself to be whole. Self-inquiry, the key to inner freedom. Ramana Maharshi's practice of self-inquiry is a way to peel back the layers of the ego and discover the truth of who you are. The practice is simple, yet profound. Ask yourself, who am I? And feel the question resonate within. The key here is not to search for an answer in words or concepts, but to go deeper. Go beyond the mind's attempt to define or explain. Every time the mind gives you an answer, I am this or I am that, ask again, who am I? Keep peeling away at the layers of identity until you reach the silent awareness that watches over all the thoughts. That is your true self. This is not a one-time exercise, but a lifelong practice of turning inward, questioning the stories that keep you trapped in the illusion of separation. The more you ask, who am I, the clearer your true nature becomes. And as you realize the truth of who you are, the noise of the ego quiets down, revealing the peace that was always there. The fear of truth. Why do we hesitate to ask, who am I? Why do we avoid silence and self-inquiry? The answer is simple, because we fear what we might find. The ego thrives on fear, on keeping you in a state of distraction, always looking outward. But in truth, it is only when you stop searching outside and turn inward that you will discover the profound peace and freedom that comes with knowing your true self. We fear that, if we let go of the ego, we will lose our identity. We are afraid that, without our labels and roles, we will be nothing. But what if the opposite is true? What if, by letting go of the false self, we discover a deeper, more authentic sense of being, one that is free from the limitations of time, space, and external validation? Ramana Maharshi's teachings remind us that we are not the thoughts, the fears, or the identities we cling to. We are the awareness that observes them, and in that awareness, we find true freedom. The power of self-knowledge. The question, who am I, holds immense power. It's not just about finding an answer. It's about experiencing a shift in perception. It's about moving from identification with the ego to identification with the self, the still, silent observer that is always present, always aware, and always at peace. When you know who you truly are, you are no longer at the mercy of the mind's noise, the ego's desires, or the world's judgments. You are free. You are the unchanging awareness that exists beyond all form. You are the truth that never wavers. In the stillness of self-inquiry, the layers of the ego fall away, revealing the simplicity and purity of your being. This is the essence of liberation, to recognize that you are already free, already whole, and that nothing outside of you can ever truly define you. So, let's return to that question. Who are you really? Don't answer with words. Don't answer with thoughts. Just sit with it, feel it, and allow the silence to reveal the truth. Accepting the present, silence and liberation from the past and future, the prison of time. We often hear that time heals all wounds, but does it? Or does it simply bury them, while the pain quietly festers beneath the surface? We spend our lives either regretting the past or anxiously anticipating the future. The present moment, the only moment we truly have, slips away unnoticed, drowned by the noise of our mind. Ramana Maharshi, in his profound simplicity, pointed out that true peace is found not in the past or the future, but in the present. The mind, however, drags us in and out of time, feeding us stories about what was and what might be. But what if, in this very moment, there is a deep, unshakable peace that requires nothing more than our awareness? The present moment is where silence resides. It is where we are most deeply connected to our true self. But we are so conditioned to be distracted by the past and future that we rarely experience it. Living in the past. The chains we carry. Have you ever noticed how the past clings to you, even when you try to move on? The memories, the regrets, the unresolved pain, they're like chains that keep you tied to a version of yourself that no longer exists. The past, with all its trauma and unresolved emotions, doesn't just stay behind you. It lives inside of you, influencing your thoughts, your behaviors, and your relationships. Ramana Maharshi often spoke about the need to let go of past conditioning in order to experience the freedom of the present. But letting go is not always easy. The ego holds on to these memories, believing they define who you are. But these past experiences are just stories you've told yourself, not your true essence. What if you could let go of the need to hold on to the past? What if the stories you've carried about who you've been no longer had the power to dictate your future? Would you feel lighter? More free? The illusion of control, the future that never arrives. The future, on the other hand, is a realm of constant uncertainty. We live in constant anticipation of what might happen, and yet, no matter how much we plan, the future always remains just out of reach. The ego, in its fear, seeks to control the future, to predict, to prepare for every possible scenario. But in doing so, we only create more anxiety, more stress, and more noise. In Ramana Maharshi's teachings, the desire to control the future is rooted in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of not being enough. The mind projects all of these fears into the future, imagining worst-case scenarios that may never come to pass. In this way, the ego keeps us trapped in a constant state of anxiety, preventing us from fully experiencing the present. But what if you allowed yourself to surrender to the present moment? What if, instead of trying to control what is to come, you simply trusted that everything will unfold as it is meant to? What would happen if you could step out of the prison of time and simply be in the now? Silence in the present moment. Silence is found only in the present moment. It is the stillness that exists beyond time, the place where we are fully ourselves without the weight of the past or the anxiety of the future. In this space, you are not your memories, and you are not your projections. You are simply being present and aware. Ramana Maharshi taught that when we are fully present, the mind's constant chatter fades away. The thoughts about what happened and what will happen dissolve, leaving only the awareness of the now. This is the silence that liberates us from the past and the future, the silence that reconnects us with our true self. So, how do you return to the present moment? How do you embrace the silence of the now? It's simple. Begin by stopping. Pause. Breathe. Let go of all the distractions. Allow yourself to feel what's happening right now, without judgment or attachment. In this silence, you will find a sense of peace that transcends everything. The noise of the past and the future loses its grip on you, and for the first time you experience the true freedom of the present moment. The liberation of now. The present moment is where the magic happens. It is where your true self resides beyond the stories and identities you've built. It is where you are free from the weight of past regrets and future anxieties. And it is where the silence, so often feared, becomes your greatest ally. When you allow yourself to be fully present, you stop seeking, stop striving, stop escaping. You simply are. And in that being, you discover the peace and freedom that Ramana Maharshi spoke of. The liberation you seek is not in some distant future or some forgotten past. It is here, in the stillness of now. The question is, are you ready to embrace it? True peace lies within, the silence as a transformative force. The power of inner silence. We spend our lives seeking peace, We look for it in relationships, in achievements, in the approval of others, and even in spiritual practices. But the peace we search for is often fleeting. It's tied to conditions, external circumstances that we believe, if just right, will finally make us feel at ease. But what if true peace is not something external at all? What if peace is something you already have deep within you, waiting to be uncovered? What if the silence you fear is the very force that can transform you? Ramana Maharshi taught that inner silence is not merely the absence of noise, but the presence of something much more profound. It is the peace that arises when you stop identifying with the mind, when you stop chasing external validation, and when you surrender to the stillness within. The struggle for peace. Seeking in the wrong places. We live in a world that constantly reinforces the idea that peace is something we must obtain from the outside. We are told that peace is found in success, in relationships, in things. And so, we spend our lives striving, grasping, and chasing after this elusive peace. But what happens when you get the job, the relationship, or the recognition you've been seeking? Does the peace last? Or does it fade, only to leave you searching for the next thing, the next fix, the next distraction? Ramana Maharshi's teachings point to a different path. He suggests that peace is not something you find, it is something you uncover. It is already there, within you, beneath the noise of your thoughts and the stories you tell yourself. The key is not to seek peace, but to silence the inner noise and allow it to emerge. The silence that heals. When we stop seeking, we create space for healing. This silence, which we often resist, is not the absence of life, it is the presence of truth. And truth is always healing. When you sit in silence and listen to your true self, you begin to heal the wounds of the past, the fears that have shaped your identity, the traumas that have dictated your actions, begin to dissolve. Healing doesn't happen by forcing it. It happens when you allow the silence to reveal what's been hidden beneath the surface. It happens when you stop running from your pain and sit with it, in stillness, long enough to understand it. And in this space, transformation occurs. The silence as a mirror. The silence acts as a mirror. It shows you who you are without the filters, without the noise of judgment or distraction. It reflects back the truth of your being, free from the stories you've built about yourself. This truth is raw and authentic. There are no masks, no pretenses. But here's the challenge. In the silence, you are faced with yourself, without the distractions that usually keep you occupied. And that can be uncomfortable. We often hide behind busyness or external validation because we're afraid of what we might find if we truly look inward. But the silence is not something to fear. It is the space in which you can finally meet yourself with compassion, acceptance, and love. A powerful force of transformation. The silence is transformative because it doesn't simply quiet the mind. It shifts your perception. When you stop identifying with the noise of the mind and the stories of the ego, you begin to see the world differently. You no longer look through the lens of fear, anxiety, or expectation. You see through the eyes of awareness, of pure presence. In this space, everything is experienced as it truly is, without judgment or attachment. You realize that you are not the thoughts you have, nor the emotions you feel. You are the awareness that witnesses them. And when you identify with that awareness, the noise of the ego begins to fade into the background. You no longer need to be defined by anything external. The end of seeking. The silence is not just a tool for peace, it is the end of the search itself. When you realize that everything you've been seeking was always inside you, the need to search outside yourself disappears. You no longer need to prove yourself, to earn your worth, or to find external sources of happiness. You are already complete, already at peace. Ramana Maharshi's teachings remind us that the silence within us is where true freedom lies. It's where the ego dissolves, and the truth of our being is revealed. When you realize this, you stop seeking and start living from a place of wholeness and presence, embracing the silence. As you continue on this path of self-inquiry and inner silence, remember this: the silence is not something you need to fight against. It is not something to be afraid of. It is the essence of who you are. It is the peace you have been searching for, always within you. always waiting to be uncovered. So take a moment now, breathe deeply, and allow the silence to speak. Let it fill you, let it heal you, let it transform you. In this space, you are free. In this space, you are home.